All right, Brandon Ingram and the New Orleans Pelicans beat the Sacramento Kings and the referees. It was a gutty win that tells you a lot about where this team is right now and what they need to improve upon. Let's break it down in a live post-game episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Available wherever you get your podcasts and available right here where we are live on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on a Wednesday night. This is technically the Thursday show. We are doing a live show here to recap the Pelicans beating the Sacramento Kings. Second straight game. They've done that 117-112. Yet refs were bad. We'll touch on that. Brandon Ingram was a hero. This tells you where this team is and what they need to improve upon, because there was a very clear area that could have lost this game for them outside of the referees. I want to touch on a couple of the other good performances we saw in this, and we're going to do the show a little bit differently. If you're listening on the podcast version, it'll be the normal show. It'll end around 24, 25, 26, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. If we have people in the chat, I'll go longer, and we'll kind of do like a bonus little fourth segment or so where we just talk, and I'll answer your questions, and it'll be a little bit more informal. It won't be in the podcast version of it, so it's only going to be available on YouTube. So, of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the Number One Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Become an everydayer, 2 words, and listen Monday through Friday. Support the channel that way. Comment down below on YouTube. Those in the chat, if you're an everydayer, let me know. So let's get into it here. We got it. Like the Thanksgiving show. This is awesome. We get to celebrate, be thankful for a Pelicans win, thankful for all of y'all. I'll touch on that coming up in this show as well. Let's start with the biggest story of this game. It was Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram took this team home when they needed it. This game, the Pelicans were up, whatever it was at the half, double digits at the half. All of a sudden, the Sacramento Kings start gaining some momentum, aided by just the weirdness of the referees in the fourth quarter, and start to storm back in this one. Game gets away from the Pels, to be perfectly honest. Turnovers not looking great late in the fourth quarter. And then Brandon Ingram does what you want your star players to do. Takes you home. Grabs a steal on the defensive side of the ball, turns it into points on the offensive end. Yes. That's what your star players need to do. Again, the Sacramento Kings are good. They don't match up particularly well overall, top to bottom, with the New Orleans Pelicans. But you knew this game wasn't going to be a 40-point game again. There were going to be adjustments made, and they certainly did. The Sacramento Kings tried to limit Zion Williamson. He still got 25 points. We'll touch on him later in the show here on 16 shots. That's very good because he was getting to the line somewhat. But it was Brandon Ingram who stepped up and made plays when they needed it. This is the guy that's supposed to do that, right? He's supposed to be more of a leader than Zion Williamson is. So in fourth quarter, crunch time, literally crunch time, the NBA classifies this game as that. You need your star players to carry you, to take you home, and he absolutely did on both sides of the ball. On a game where Zion Williamson was bad defensively, and he hasn't been bad recently, I want to touch on that later, was just him looking good, like Ingram looking good, like a killer, like a stone cold assassin, which is what you want to see, which you don't always see from him. So I'm thrilled that we got this sort of performance out of him in this game. This is a game where you can get some confidence, right? Now, all of a sudden, the Pelicans are streaking a little bit. They're now 4-1 in their last 5 games against 3 really good teams, 4 really good teams, 4 really good teams. I love what we saw from them in this one. It shows you where they are. This was a night, and this will lead into the next segment here, that they couldn't shoot. They shot 23% from 3, 7 of 30. That's an awful number. The Kings doubled them up, more than doubled them up in terms of 3-pointers made, 15-7. And they still won this game. You shouldn't win like that in today's NBA with that bad shooting. But Zion Williamson carried him at times. Brandon Ingram took him home. You had your role players step up in Jordan Hawkins, Najee Marshall, who made a ton of plays. Jose Alvarado hitting some threes and making some plays, including grabbing steals. Herb Jones being a menace defensively, didn't have anything going on offense in this game, but 3 steals and a block for him. Your star player in Brandon Ingram stepping up on the defensive side of the ball. That's not what he's known for. That's how you go and win this game against a real tough team that played you 2 nights before, that had time to make adjustments and wanted to come in and do things differently. Loved it from them. Shows you where they're at. This team, as they are right now, can be competitive probably against almost every team in the NBA. I don't want to say every single team. I'd like to see them against a team like the Celtics, the Bucks, the length there, and all of that. But Trick Pick with a great comment. I'm going to save your comment right there for the next segment because you nailed it. So, sorry, that one just caught my eye as I'm talking here in the moment. I love having y'all live with me. It's a lot of fun. So, they can compete with anyone, and they're not fully healthy. They're not fully healthy. There's no CJ McCollum in this. No Trey Murphy. Larry Nance Jr. just started to get back in this game. There's a larger discussion to be had about Larry Nance Jr. as well. And they still won in a game that the refs were like actively conspiring against them. I don't know what was going on with that whistle. Pelicans couldn't get a call in the fourth quarter. The Kings got everything. There was tons of contact on Zion, on Valanciunas. Nothing. Touch fouls on the Sacramento Kings and De'Aaron Fox. We'll get more into the refs in the third segment here because the Pelicans did make some defensive adjustments that really worked and really helped. But, refs, weird game here. That's why I put it in the title. Brandon Ingram beats the Kings and the refs. The bigger threat in this game to them losing was absolutely the referees. So let's talk about what Trick Pick here says. The shooting failure, the whole point of the last episode. Yep. You saw it in this game. I love what we're seeing from this starting lineup, but there's a very big limitation, and this is an area that the Pelicans need to improve on. They're good now. They are a good team now, and that starting lineup is good now, but there's room to improve, and they need to kind of figure that out. And it also might just be as simple as they need to get healthy. Let's talk about that coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the Number One Pelicans podcast, coming to you like nobody else does, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Whether it's trade talk, whether it's breaking down the on-court stuff, the stats in the lineup, we do it all here. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Join the live shows when we do these. This is fun having everyone in here with me on Thanksgiving Eve. Speaking of Thanksgiving, if you're listening to this on Thursday or if you're listening to this right now with me, I was on ESPN Radio earlier on Wednesday with Gus Kattengill, good friend of mine. There's a funny story about what I do towards him. I see him after every single game, and we have this like ritual, and it's great. One day I'll tell that on here. But he asked me, he's like, what are you thankful for, Jake? And I said, I'm thankful for the Pelicans community. You know, I always say, and I'm going to take a moment to be a little bit sappy here, okay? So forgive me. It's Thanksgiving. The Pelicans just won. I'm in a good mood. You're in a good mood too. We'll get back to the basketball talk in a second. I appreciate y'all like so much. I do this show for you. It's 10:20. I was up doing Locked On NBA till like 1 a.m. last night, and I'm exhausted. And I want to be here talking with y'all because you make doing this show worth it. This show is not about me and wanting to be in front of a camera and talking about what I want to talk about. I craft the entirety of this show for y'all because this community is so wonderful. And it's so wonderful to be a part of, and I appreciate you all so much. I want to do the best job for you. So a lot of you at the arena come up and say thank you, and I always say thank you right back for listening. It's not about me. It's about you. You're all who makes this community and thus this show truly something special. New Orleans is a basketball city. Now, if you want to hang out in person, Pels 12's having a watch party at Mid-City Yacht Club, by the way, on Saturday for the Jazz game. I will be there because I like all y'all. So again, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone listening to the show. I am thankful for all of y'all. So let's get back into this here. Oh, wait, I want to read this. I want to read this because this is cool. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's on YouTube. It's going all the time. They run Locked On shows on there, including Locked On Pelicans, including Locked On NBA, our big national show that I host every Wednesday as well. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you subscribe to that. Get some of the best Locked On content. There's nothing else like that. Locked On can do stuff that like no one else can. It's really cool. Go subscribe. So let's get back into this Pelicans win here, because at one point it looked like the game was getting away from them, right? 117-112 win. I talked about this literally, as Trick Pick says here in the chat on yesterday's show. Thank you for bringing that up, because it was the second thing I wanted to talk about. Great segue here. The listeners making me look like a true professional. I did not plan that comment from Trick Pick. He said that shooting failure was the whole point of the last episode. Yep. We talked about the starting lineup. It's working with Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. Those 5 players. Name the shooter. Can't. Trick question. There's no shooter out there. Dyson can shoot threes at times. Herb can shoot threes at times. Valanciunas can shoot threes at times. You had Brandon Ingram go 5 for 5 the other night, but he's not what I would call a shooter. He can be a shooter, but he went 1 of 4 in this game. Took fewer threes than he did last game. There's no shooting there. And so in the third quarter, in the second half, really, when the Sacramento Kings started to get hot and get going from 3, math started to work against the Pelicans. Sometimes the NBA and a basketball game comes down to math. Pelicans can be up by a bunch, but if you make threes and I make twos, you're going up a point incrementally every time. And over time, that adds up. And at one point, the Sacramento Kings, I think they had the lead, right? In the second half. They were making threes. They shot 8 of 20 in the second half. The Pelicans shot 4 of 14. I mean, think about it right there. That's a significant difference. That's 12 points. Wasn't a 12-point game. Harrison Barnes going 3 of 4, basically from the short corner on the left side in the second half. Trey Lyles going 3 of 5. They were making threes and the Pelicans were leaving them open, and the Pelicans couldn't make threes themselves. Dyson Daniels, 0 for 3 in the second half from deep. Jordan Hawkins, 1 of 4. Jose Alvarado made 1. It was a big one. Brandon Ingram took 1 3-point attempt in the second half. Herb Jones went 0 for 1. You need those shooters out there. This is where the team is missing a guy like Matt Ryan. This is where you have a guy in Jordan Hawkins who struggled defensively. We'll talk about that in the next segment a little bit. And you couldn't keep him on the court as much. This is a problem right now. You need to get 3-point shots up, and you need them to fall, because that is straight up, other than the refs, how the Sacramento Kings got back into this game. It was a math problem for the Pelicans here. Now, here's the good news about that. You want to be optimistic? One, they're good enough to get these wins without that. It helps that you can get out to a lead and the starters are playing very, very well. You also see Najee looking a little bit more better offensively, being more aggressive and everything. But you need those 3-point shots to fall. You can't keep trading 2s for 3s against good 3-point shooting teams or teams that are willing to do it and making them. That's a problem. It gets fixed, though. It gets fixed like rather easily, to be perfectly honest. You know how it gets fixed? Health. CJ McCollum, who went through a full practice the other day, he is going to be back on the court in no time. He has been shooting the ball well from 3 this season. You're also going to get Trey Murphy. I watch him in warmups every single game. He looks ready to play. I don't know why he's not. I'm assuming he's just not ready and they're not going to clear him just yet. I'm not a doctor, so like make of that what you will. But he looks good. He looks ready to play. And when he does, he's going to be out there on the court draining threes. He doesn't miss in warmups whatsoever. CJ McCollum is taking 8 3-point attempts per game, making him at a 38% rate. That's great. Matt Ryan is taking over 5 3-pointers per game. He's shooting 47% from 3. He's out right now. They're just missing their 3-point shooters. It's forced them to play a bit of a different style. It's forced them to play without 3-point shooting. But when those guys come back, don't worry. They're going to have the shooting there. And I think that's going to be one of the most important things from them here. So this will get fixed. The lack of three-point shooting will get fixed. And that's, again, reasons why you should be optimistic about the team. It might lead to some losses over the next week or 2, 3 weeks until they get some of these guys back. It really might. It almost cost them in this game. But I would have looked at this game of, okay, they lost because they didn't have three-point shooting because those guys are injured, not because the guys that normally make the shots aren't making them. Those are good problems to have. And this is something that I told Gus Cattengill when I was on ESPN radio in New Orleans with him earlier on Wednesday. The beginning of the year was up and down, right? A bit of a roller coaster. And as we started to see the genesis of this team, the team meeting that they just had, Will Guillory of The Athletic just wrote an amazing article about it. You really need to sign up for The Athletic if you don't. When they were eventually going to come together, they were going to start to win games and play very good basketball, and they're doing it. So when you looked at this team on a roller coaster earlier on in the year, that was fine. They weren't even coming close to their potential. What would have been bad was if we were looking at this team and been like, oh, this is who they are. Like, this is what their ceiling is. Right now, they just won this game. They just beat a very, very good Sacramento Kings team that was shooting lights out. And guess what? They are still not anywhere close to their potential as a team because they're not healthy. And they still haven't figured some things out. That is truly an amazing thing to say about this team and should make you optimistic here. Arrow Gant One Green says, the modern NBA feels like two teams both playing live or die by the three. I don't think it is. I think threes are an important part of spacing to open things up for Zion Williamson. He had a tough go. He doesn't get some of the foul calls because I don't think the refs can see some of the contact he gets because there's a million bodies down there. Three-point shooting helps that. Not only does it space the court and just give him more room to work, it gives the refs better sight lines because there's fewer bodies looking at him. Ask any NBA player, they talk about that. So it's not live or die by the three at all. The Pelicans didn't die by the three, and they didn't make threes in this game. You've got other things that you can do. But you still need to hit threes. It's important. It's 2023, going to be 2024 soon. You need to make your three-pointers. You need your shooters back. Well, they're going to be back soon. And that's what I think is so exciting about this team. They're getting quality wins right now. This isn't them beating up the Portland Trailblazers, the San Antonio Spurs, or anything like that. These are good teams that they're beating, and they're nowhere close to being, fully operational here, right? This should scare the rest of the NBA entirely. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other performers that we saw in this game that I think were important to talk about here. And then after that, we'll all hang out. We got a lot of people in the chat, so we'll go for a while. I don't mind that. And we'll kind of do like a bonus fourth segment that won't be in the podcast version. It'll only be available on YouTube. So let's keep hanging out. It's fun. We got Thanksgiving tomorrow. It's going to be a great day. There will be a show on Friday for y'all as well. That's coming up next. In today's episode, a live episode of Locked On Pelicans. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here, the Number One Pelicans podcast, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you want to support the channel, become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. Or if you only listen 1 day a week, listen 2 days a week. That would be a wonderful thing. That supports the channel, helps keep it free and 5 days a week for y'all. If you really want to support the channel, go the extra mile. There's no Patreon, no anything like that. Don't ask for money, right? Just join the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group. It's through this thing called Subtext. You can literally text me, and I will text you back. Locked Everydayer, by the way, I believe is 2 words. I'm waiting to get confirmation on that. Thank you. So, join the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group. I got thrown off there. And talk to me. I don't use Twitter as much anymore. That's the best way to interact with me on everything. I'll put the link. Let me see if I can pull it up here and put it in the chat. I can. That's very cool. All you need is your phone number. It's really easy. It's $4.99 a month, so there's some money with it, but you get a 14-day free trial. If you don't like it, just cancel it. That's fine. The show's still going to be free and 5 days a week for y'all. So let's get into a couple other performers, then we're just going to hang out and talk. Simple as that. We're going to save that for the end. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. I might ask you to repeat them because I'm way behind on the chat because, again, we got a lot of people here. Speaks to the community. And I'll see you at the Mid-City Yacht Club Saturday for the watch party for the Jazz game with the Pels 12. I love that group. They're awesome. I love supporting them, and I can't wait to be there with y'all, hanging out in person on Saturday night. Oh, so let me get into one thing first before we talk about individual performances. Defensive adjustments. This game was getting away from the Pelicans because De'Aaron Fox finally started to get going. De'Aaron Fox is like one of the ultimate Pelicans killers out there. This dude just lights up New Orleans and loves to do it in the Smoothie King Center. He has had some incredible games here in New Orleans, which is super annoying. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. They very much limited him in this first matchup. He started to get going in this game. This was a bit of a welcome to the NBA moment for Jordan Hawkins, who was tasked for most of the night with guarding De'Aaron Fox. And it didn't work particularly well in that third quarter, in that second half, when Fox scored, where his numbers... Let me pull the third quarter up here. De'Aaron Fox had 9 points in the third quarter and looked like he was going to take control of this game. Jordan Hawkins was struggling. The rest of the team was kind of struggling on defense. This was the worst defensive game I think I've seen this season from Zion Williamson. We'll talk on that in a second here. And so they eventually switched Jose Alvarado onto De'Aaron Fox, and that completely changed everything. Defensive adjustment by the head coach in the middle of the game to change who was guarding the hot player, put a smaller guy on him. I don't think Jose is taller than me, to be perfectly honest with y'all. He's not 6 foot. I'm over 6 foot. So he puts Jose Alvarado on De'Aaron Fox, and it worked. Just a key in-game adjustment that started to swing some of the momentum back towards the Pelicans and kill some of those runs that the Sacramento Kings were going on. Great decision to be able to do that. I love that the Pelicans have been trying to play small. Larry Nance Jr. came back, they put him out there, but knew that they needed to play bigger to secure rebounds. In the fourth quarter, Jonas Valanciunas with 5 fouls out there battling for boards, getting hit in the face, not getting foul calls. The Pelicans coaching staff, Willie Green, had the right read, the right feel on this game. And that was a great thing to see. After, at times being a little bit much maligned here, to be able to go out and make those defensive adjustments, do exactly what they needed to do, it helped get the win there. That was really big for the Pelicans here. It was nice to see Larry Nance Jr. back out there on the court. I've got some worries about him long-term with this team. He hasn't looked particularly good this season, but he was okay in 12 minutes of action here. Grabbed enough boards to really contribute. He has not been scoring. They need more out of him from there. You look at Cody Zeller, who played fewer minutes. Zeller, by the way, was the first big man off the bench over Larry Nance Jr., which I liked because I think Zeller's been playing well, to be perfectly honest with y'all. He was a +7. Larry Nance Jr. was a -4 in this game, but Larry Nance was playing a lot with the starters, and they went with a super small lineup out there. Najee Marshall in this game, you could honestly say, was the game changer off the bench. He was a +25, which is ridiculous. The Pelicans won his 20 minutes by 25 points when he was out there. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block, just flying around. The energy level when he's out there, when Jose Alvarado is out there, is entirely different, and it just elevates this team. You've got to give him a lot of credit there. And yeah, again, in-game adjustments, the kind of right feeling from the team was good to stem the tide that was going away from them. The refs actively not working in the Pelicans' favor here. One of the weirdest called games I've seen. There were some bad foul calls on the Kings in the first half, which seemed to take them out of rhythm. And then it was like the refs in the fourth quarter, like, oh, we got to make up for what happened in the first quarter here. It's like an older promo for Locked On now. We use this with like advertisers and things too. And it's funny where we have like a sizzle reel almost of like Locked On hits. And I think they pulled it from my show one time where it's like you can just very clearly hear me say, the NBA has an officiating problem. They still do. That's not great. It's too inconsistent. It shouldn't be inconsistent from quarter to quarter. At times it was a tight whistle. At times it wasn't. The players need to figure out how to play the game. I heard a clip or two of Antonio Daniels on the broadcast being like, I need to say something. And you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to do that. It sounds like the right move for him. Dyson Daniels, by the way, out there still doing some good things. I wish his shot was falling more. If he gets his three-point shot falling, he was 0 for 5 in this game. Not really working for him. But again, he's able to contribute, and that's what I think the impressive thing is. 7 rebounds for him in this one, a steal, playing good defense. When that shot eventually starts falling, which maybe this year, maybe it's a year in the future, he's showing you everything you want to see from him. He's going to be a really, really good player, I think. And I'm still very much on the Dyson Daniels bandwagon, island, whatever you want to call it. I see y'all here in the chat talking about it. Yeah, there was a very, very loud refs you suck chant. And that was, you could feel the Smoothie King Center was upset with that. The atmosphere in there was fun. Y'all make it fun to be there. Y'all make it just fun to cover the Pelicans. As I said earlier to open the second segment, I'm thankful for y'all. I truly mean that. I'm always happy to talk with y'all, basketball, hoops, whatever it is. Yeah, just thanks for hanging out. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to end the show verbally. This is going to sound weird. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going to end the show, but we're actually not ending the show if you're on YouTube here, and I'll answer your questions. I'll take your comments kind of as a bonus part here on the YouTube version of Locked On Pelicans, but I'm going to end it on the audio version of Locked On Pelicans. So let me do this. Don't leave. Don't leave. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Enjoy your Thanksgiving today. Again, I am thankful for y'all, and I'll be back with y'all on Friday. We'll get set for the weekend, an in-season play-in tournament game against the Clippers, watch party game on the road against the Utah Jazz. It's going to be trickier than you think. 2 games against the Utah Jazz. Want to talk more about Dyson, Herb, others on this team in Friday's show. We'll maybe make it a mailbag, answer your questions on there as well. So make sure you tune in to the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, we're not done. We're not done here. It's Locked On Pelicans after dark, after hours here. So let's hang out. This is where I don't have to read anything for the show. We like to be professional, part of a network after all. So give me your questions. If you're an everydayer, just say hi. Let me know what you thought about the game here, and let's hang out. We'll go for a little while. We can go a little bit longer here. This is your time to shine. I see a lot of people hating the refs. A lot of people hating the refs. They were bad. They were bad. Again, call the game one way. Call the game one way, however it's going to be. Tight, loose, touch fouls, whatever. That's what you need to do. It just needs to be consistent so players can figure out how to kind of respond, how to act to this sort of thing. Joshua here says, I'm sending a letter to Adam Silver myself and sending him a mixtape of Zion getting hacked and not getting calls. That's a good idea. They're going to throw it out. The Pelicans have certainly done things like that. They tend to do that all the time. Every team does that. It just doesn't really result in anything happening. Let me see something here. Zion is averaging the fewest free throws per game of his career this season. He's getting to the rim a little bit less, so that number's been ticking up. I'm trying to find his free throw rate. Let me pull up the advanced statistics here. Lowest free throw rate of his career by far. So there's a stat that I like. Free throw attempt rate. It's the number of free throw attempts per field goal attempt. His rookie year, let's round it up and call it 0.5. So basically, for every shot attempt, he was getting a free throw attempt too. Second year, it was 51%. Last year was 53%. That's insane, right? This year, it's 42.3%. He is not getting foul calls at all. I think part of it's the bad spacing. And I said this, and this actually came from Eric Gordon, former player here in New Orleans. And I watched a game with him one time, actually at a watch party that he showed up to, which was really cool. And as we were talking, he was talking about the Houston Rockets with James Harden and the spacing they have. Remember when he was there, they used to just have Harden and like 4 shooters on the court. They went super small all the time. And it just gave Harden driving lanes. And anytime he got touched, anytime he got fouled, the refs could see it because they had clear sight lines because he's just going one-on-one downhill towards the rim. The refs can't see some of what happens to Zion because the spacing is so bad. Really simple as that. They need to kind of space the court for him better. That's why they need more shooting out there. That's why this lineup of Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Zion, B.I., Valanciunas doesn't get to the line at all. If you're an everydayer, go listen to the show yesterday, or if you're not an everydayer, you should go listen to the show because everydayers did. starting lineup doesn't get to the line, doesn't get fouled at all. And I think because, there's no real shooting here. 99 Dog says facts on the Pels broadcast. I don't know what it was in regards to, but I absolutely love Joel Myers and Antonio Daniels. Both of them friends of the show. Antonio Daniels is a frequent guest here. Joel Myers is just the freaking coolest. Love the broadcast that we get here. Josh Darby says we need more Zeller minutes. Maybe there's limitations there. I don't want to be playing Cody Zeller 20 to 25 minutes per game. I think you might need to do this kind of on a game-to-game basis. I think the larger thing is, can it work with Larry Nance Jr. and what they're doing? I was talking to Shamit Dua of In the Know the other night, and he had said that that Larry Nance Jr. hasn't scored double-digit points since February. That's not great because the backup center spot they've gotten nothing from that, and they need to get backup 5 quality minutes. If that's Zeller, that's great. If it's someone else, that's great. It's not going to be EJ Liddell, who's not NBA ready yet. It's not Jeremiah Robinson Earl, did he even play in this game? And he shouldn't have played in this game because he had been bad defensively. They need to work on finding a backup 5. You can get that position for cheap. So if they do anything, you certainly want to get that at the trade deadline here. Keith Cunningham says, love the Blazer. Thank you. Looking sharp for y'all on a post-game episode of Locked On Pelicans here. Did like what happened with Fox getting teed up. I was a little bit surprised he didn't get 2. They really were kind of jawing and everything. So it was great to see that they could get in his head, kind of take him out of this game here. Mika Vander Frago, I believe, is an everyday. Joel Myers and AD and Antonio Daniels are the most unbiased in terms of broadcasting. They even explain why Pels players commit a foul. It's funny how they always talk about winning the lottery. They're great. They have great chemistry. That broadcast is fantastic. I'm from Los Angeles originally. After Chick Hearn passed, there was a replacement, and then Joel Myers eventually stepped into that role. That's huge shoes to fill, and he was really good. When they got to bring him to New Orleans, it was fantastic. When they brought in Antonio Daniels, who reads the game so well, and then does a really good job of explaining that almost in the moment of what's happening, is just incredible to me. They're tied to the team, so whatever happens with the TV deal, those two are staying unless they get jobs elsewhere. I'd be happy for them. I hope not, though. I think they both really love... Joel loves living here. I don't think Joel Myers is going to go anywhere. I wonder if Antonio Daniels will get poached for like a national thing. When, say, Amazon gets some rights, would they bring him on as kind of their like number 1 or number 2 broadcast team? He's that good. He could do that job. I'd like that for him, but would like to keep him here in New Orleans too. I love all the love for Antonio Daniels and Joel Myers here. We'll get Antonio Daniels on the show too. I'm going to tell him that all y'all in the chat were saying he's got to come back on Locked On Pelicans here. AL 1999K 1999K asks, does Zion play like he doesn't want to draw fouls? He could easily gather, take the foul, and then make them call it. No, he can't. He gets a ton of contact, and they don't call it. It's kind of bizarre to me. There were a number of calls in this game that should have been. There was an over the back that was like blatantly obvious where the Kings jumped on him. The Pelicans still got the rebound somehow, but it easily should have been a foul. They were just, the way is this, right? You can't compare a big man to a guard in terms of fouls. The contact rules are, in theory, not different, but it actually is the same, right? It should be the same, but it's not. If you're a big man, you have to have a lot of contact before they'll call a foul. And if you're a guard, they're going to just call the foul. They're just not officiated the same. And even though Zion plays like a guard, by the way, when he's not posting people up, he plays like a guard. He plays like Kyrie Irving. It's not exactly the same thing. And that's part of the reason why Zion doesn't get calls. He's such a big dude. They need to just like hack the heck out of him. And that's really not how it goes. Fifth King Corner here says, yeah, agree, Jake. Nance is not the answer. What do you think they do about Nance? Surely he's a liability on both sides. Tap rebounds instead of grabbing it. He's a mere shell of himself. The big thing with Nance is this. If he was an elite defender on the perimeter, it would be fine. They put him out there over Jonas Valanciunas because he can switch. So pick and roll comes, right? Big man sets the screen for the guard for the opponent. And what they do is instead of having the guard fight through the screen, continuing to defend the other guard, they switch. So you get your big man on a guard and then your guard on the big man. So it's Larry Nance Jr. in theory guarding a guard, defending a guard. This is terrible language on my part. And that doesn't work because he just doesn't have the mobility. He gets blown by. And that's what's been hurting him. If he could defend that way, it would be okay. But right now he doesn't have that. He's been dealing with injuries for like 2 years and he's just probably not fully healthy. And if anything, we should commend him in a sense for wanting to be competitive, for wanting him to be out there on the court. And that's the real big thing. Like that kind of fight, that kind of spirit is something that's rare. Zion Williamson playing on the second night of back-to-backs. If Brandon Ingram gets a little bit of an injury, is he sitting indefinitely? That's how it goes. So to have guys that play through these injuries, even if they're not 100% themselves, that's important. And I do like having those kind of fighters, in a sense, on the team here. K.O. Dave asks, Jake, what are your expectations for a fully healthy second unit? Dyson or Jose, Hawkins, Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy, Zeller. I think you don't need to think of full second units. How often do they run a full second unit? It's not line changes in hockey, right? The second unit for the beginning part of the year was being led by CJ McCollum. You know, you would just take Zion and BI out and put in 4 other guys. And it was CJ leading the second unit. So for everyone who's like, hey, CJ should come off the bench. One, no, because you need the shooting with the starting lineup, especially based off of this game, right? But he also does that. I think people get too suckered into 5-man units that just don't play a lot, that sound great in theory. But again, it's called a rotation for a reason because they're rotating guys in, and that's something to keep in mind with that too. So I don't think we need to focus too much on the second unit. It's finding the right kind of combinations. I think they did that. CJ, a defender, another shooter, and a big man in Valanciunas, and it worked. That's what won them that comeback win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, the game I had technical difficulties and couldn't record that night and had to record the show later. So that lineup works. When he's back, you can start to do that. When this team's healthy, you can do that again. You can put Trey Murphy into that too. So in theory, your like second unit in a sense is CJ, Trey, Herb, Dyson, and Valanciunas. And I like that unit. It's been really good. That's definitely worked. So don't worry too much about like specific lineups. It's how do you thread the right guys in at the right time? And I still think they are thinking about that here. Trick pick, I will answer your question because you had a great comment earlier. Do you have any insight to EJ Liddell's opportunity, why we signed Jeremiah Robinson-Earl instead of calling up EJ or Darion Sebron? I mean, they're all different positions, right? Sebron's a guard. He just put up 37 in the G League, but he hasn't shown it at the NBA level too much. Hasn't had opportunities either. I mean, EJ Liddell didn't play basketball for a year. You know, he's not ready to just have a big role. He's also undersized, right? Also very, very undersized when he's out there. He's smaller, I think, than Larry Nance Jr. is. So I think that runs you into some trouble there. You know, if he's not as good as Larry Nance Jr. is right now and he's smaller, you're trying to win games. This is not a developmental season for the Pelicans, right? This is not a year where it's like, let's just get these guys experience. You need the best guys out there. And I think the biggest thing with that's why. Like, that's it. You know, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl had at least been tested. If you'd watched him at times with the Thunder, you saw some talent there. You know, he can shoot a little bit. He can do some other things. But they benched him because he wasn't good. His defense was atrocious at times. And so they put him on the bench, which was the right thing. He didn't play in this game for that reason. You know, so it's just they tried it with the established guy. It didn't work. And now they're kind of back to square one. But it kind of tells you just where EJ Liddell is. You know, being undersized. And look, I like EJ Liddell. He's, I think, a well-rounded player. But let me ask you this. With EJ Liddell, what's the one thing he does really well? What's the one thing he does really well that you go, that dude is very skilled or very good at that? There isn't an answer. There's not one thing that he excels at. I think he does everything like above average. That's a useful bench player, but that's not a guy that's necessarily going to get significant minutes on a team that is fighting in a very, very tough Western Conference. 504DO asks for beard tips here. I don't know, I just trim it down. Kind of as simple as that. There's nothing really to it, to be perfectly honest. I just grow it, trim it down, leave it. Kind of takes care of itself. 99 Dog asks Miles Turner for JV trade. No, Turner's untradeable. The Pacers are good. Did you watch that game on Tuesday night? It was so much fun. So much fun. That Pacers team is good. They're adding players, if anything. I don't think they're sellers anymore. They're going to be really good, or at least really fun. They play zero defense, but every Pacers game right now is like League Pass alert and like must-watch TV. That game was so much fun. Tyrese Halliburton is the truth right there. So let's keep going. Put your questions in the chat. We have a lot of people in here still. Look at all y'all. This is awesome. Thanks for being here. This means the world to me. Seriously. We have almost 200 people. We're pushing 11 p.m. the night before Thanksgiving after the Pelicans beat the Sacramento Kings. This is awesome. This is awesome. We'll keep going for a little while. This show's for you now at this point here. I see a couple things about Jonas Valanciunas. So this one's tough, right? If you're an everydayer, you know what I say about Jonas Valanciunas and how the Pelicans view him. It's not that he's a bad player. He's not. He's a good player. You could argue he's a little bit underrated, actually. He just don't fit. He just doesn't fit. That's kind of the problem. That's kind of the problem, right? The Pelicans look at it and go to him and be like, hey, Jonas, it's not you, it's us, right? It's like the breakup. It's not you, it's me. But this time it's actually true. It's always the other person when they say that. But here it's not. He's good. He just doesn't fit, right? He doesn't defend on the perimeter well. He's at least now battling for boards better than he did, but he's not a rim protector, right? He doesn't give you spacing. He can give you 15 and 10, which is what I think he did in this game, 15 and 11. That's really useful. He can give you some assists and create some space with screen assists and dribble handoff moves. So because he's good enough, you can't trade him for just a garbage player. You can't do that. The Zion at the 5 lineups, I'm not convinced by. They're running Herb Jones as a guy to defend centers, but it's mainly for switching purposes. Ooh, maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. That's a great topic, actually, because I think it's really X's and O's and really interesting. So you don't have someone that can just be your center then. And so Valanciunas is too good to trade away unless you get a very, very big upgrade there. And I just don't think one of those is available. And I think that's kind of the problem here. And eventually, maybe the right thing comes along, but it's going to take a minute for you to really find that. Chad Gillette one says, what is Brandon Ingram's actual height? He's listed at 6'8", but I don't think that's correct. No, I think he's probably a little bit taller than that, but I mean, that's 6'8", maybe without shoes. So with shoes, he's probably pushing closer to like 6'10", something like that. But I don't know what his actual height is. It's probably somewhere in that range. He's probably a little bit taller, though. He's very lanky, too. Like, thin dude, which I think makes him look probably taller than he actually is. Denzel Horton says, everydayer comment. I absolutely love that here. Joshua Louvier says, JV has killed the Clippers the past few seasons. Hopefully he goes off against them. I agree. That would be great. We'll see if that ends up happening. That's going to be on Friday, first night of a back-to-back for the Pelicans. He usually drains threes. Actually, was just in Los Angeles and hung out with our Locked On Clippers host, Darian. Go check out the Locked On Clippers podcast. He's got some really great insight onto what's going on with the Clippers after they traded for James Harden. They looked bad. They look good now. My boys here, ABJ504 with the comment. There's him, there's P Lids too, who are like the two most consistent people. I got to start seeing others and really keeping a running list of y'all who say comment or say hi in every single game here. Marco Villanueva says, hello, Jake Madison. Hello to you, Marco. John Marceau says, if the Pels beat the Clippers, do we clinch a spot in the next round of the in-season tournament? I believe it depends on what the Denver Nuggets do. Hold on. In-season tournament standings. Let's see. Because I think the Nuggets have a chance to win the group as well. But the Pelicans really might have like the wild card kind of locked up right now. Let me pull up the standings here for the group. We're doing it. Yeah, the Pelicans and the Nuggets are 2-1. You play 4 games. That would be the fourth. So if the Pelicans win, they should be safe. Depending on the point differential, they'd be 3-1. That should really do it for them. The certain teams have already clinched spot. The Lakers are 4-0. The Pacers were 3-0 based on their group and the insane point differential they have. That's great. Houston, in theory, if they get to 2-2 and the Pelicans lose, they could be out. So if the Pelicans win, they should be good and should at least clinch a wild card, I believe. So I think that's going to be a very good thing. Yeah, need a Houston loss if we win. Is that what it is? That sounds right. But they should then still be in a good position for advancing as a wild card. I love the in-season tournament. If you're an everydayer, you know that I've loved the in-season tournament since the get-go. I love the courts. The only type of court I don't like is the red ones where it actually is tough to see the basketball a little bit. But you heard comments from Tyrese Halliburton yesterday saying, I've never done anything. I've never been in the playoffs. I've never played for a title. This is motivating to me. Shows you that the in-season tournament is working with these guys right now. Yeah, they want to go to Vegas too. I also think a big part of the draw is that that all of the games are on TNT. So look at Tyrese Halliburton. Actually, go watch. I did this segment on Locked On NBA on Wednesday. This was great. And it worked out perfectly because I was doing it with the Locked On Pacers host, Tony E. So it could not have been timed any better. Tyrese Halliburton has never been on TNT. He's a good player. That is a top 20 guy in the league right now, I think, easily. He looks that good. 37 points, 16 assists the other night. He had 9 threes, made 7 threes in a quarter. Dude's a stud. Really wanted the Pelicans to draft him. One pick away. He went 12, and I think they took, I can't even remember his name. That's what it matters here. Kyra Lewis Jr., 13th. Is that right? It was something like that. And he's never played on TNT. He has one TNT game this season, the Pacers do. But now he's going to get to be on TNT. It's national coverage, national TV for a guy in a team that's never on it. I think that's motivating to them. He's going to be on TNT and probably want to show out and put his best game forward. That motivates the players to go out and do that. I love that. Anything that makes these regular season games a little bit more fun, matter a little bit more. The in-season tournament is not about the fans. It's about motivating the players, the teams, and that's definitely working. And so I love what we're seeing from the in-season tournament and the games that we're getting out of it. It's just been fun. I think it's cool. So 504 Dio says we definitely need more national TV games for people to see just how good Herb Jones is for Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, look, him not being on national TV at times, the Pelicans always being terrible on national TV, is a factor into all of this. So we want to see that sort of thing here. I can't believe we have this many people in the chat still. We'll go for like 10 more minutes. We'll make this a solid hour here. Michael Roby says, good show, Jake. You the best in the business, boss. Thank you. There's other really great people, content creators in the Pelicans world space here too. So I appreciate you saying that. I don't care about being the best. I just want to serve y'all as best that I can. And I appreciate you so much for being here, hanging out with me at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday night, talking Pelicans, other NBA questions here. Yeah, this is fun. Fluffy Ham says, Zion getting a rest day in the back-to-back coming up. You kind of assume so. I don't know for sure. We'll find out. But that's what they've been doing. So, yeah, I think there's reason to assume that you won't see Zion on Saturday here. Josh says, what's your go-to Thanksgiving meal, Jake? I'm going over to a friend's place. I might be over at the fairgrounds trying to hang out with Joe Myers Thursday as well. So whatever they're cooking is what I'm going to be eating. Also, Thanksgiving food, great. Love the tradition, all of that, but a little overrated. Give me some other stuff that isn't. I'm not a stuffing guy in those kind of things. Like turkey's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, do like barbecue Thanksgiving or something like that. I think would be really great here. Trick Pick says the fit has us locked in. I'll admit it. Gotta look sharp for y'all. When I go to games, I try and be at least like a little bit professional looking since, yeah, that's the thing. Edward Cruz Pagan, 12 a.m. time, my guy. Always supporting my home team from Indiana. Love it. Great to see Pels support all around the country, but all around the world here with Vincent Loriendi. Go Pels from Australia. I know we got a lot of people there. A lot of fans from the Philippines. We're back there. Basketball crazy in the Philippines too. John Havel says, what's going to happen with Matt Ryan? Dude shooting 47%. I think his minutes are going to go down when Trey comes back. I think his minutes are going to go down significantly when Trey comes back. We'll see. They play the same position. They signed him as cheap shooting, but he's making his threes. That's good. His defense is not great. That's a little bit of the problem right there. Jim Clelmer, whatever it is. Sorry. Will the Pelicans sign Matt Ryan? Maybe eventually. I don't know just yet, though. They still need to sort out their luxury tax issues first. They're about $3 million into it. They want to move Kyra Lewis Jr., didn't play. hasn't been playing. That's part of the problem. So before you sign him and go deeper into the luxury tax, you probably need to sort some of that out here, and that's not great. Okay, here's a question I do want to talk about because I was thinking about this tonight, and we might do this. Michael Roby, I'm going to save your question for the Friday show. That's a good question. What's the vibe on the black uniforms and different color court? Can you see us changing colors in the future? Thank you. I like the thanks at the end. So polite here. Hold on. I'm literally writing down rebrand to black for my show notes for Friday's show. So when I record early tomorrow morning and then get this set for you Thursday night for Friday's show, rebrand to black. Love it. Perfect. That's definitely going to do it. I want to talk about that. We're going to do a whole segment on that. That's really good. That was a great question. If you have questions, send them to me either in here in the comments down below, not in the chat, but in the comments, or on Twitter. It's at NolaJake, because I will answer your questions in Friday's show. We'll do it as a little bit of a mailbag, make my life a little bit easier in the morning. So let's start to wrap. I don't know. We have so many of y'all here. Give me a couple more questions. And then we'll start to wrap up here. Shenanigans asks, have you heard anything about the Pels moving away from Valley? Probably not this season, but eventually. I've done a ton of shows about this. If you're an everydayer, they've looked at bringing it in-house. They'll try and still look at bringing it in-house, or the NBA is going to take over. We'll see. Look, Valley's not going to be around much longer. They're bankrupt. They can barely pay their people. They're cutting corners. So you don't need to worry too much about Bally's. It's just not going to go away this season. How will guys get minutes? Team Stack 99 Dog. The best guys are going to get minutes. Kind of really as simple as that. Robert Mason says smoked brisket. Yes, that's the type of Thanksgiving that I want to eat. Chung says Larry versus Zeller minutes. We'll see. Again, they do different things. They just need to get production from that backup 5 spot because they haven't been getting it. Whoever steps up and does that should be getting minutes. It's really as simple as that. Yes, Bally's has been bad this year. I agree with that. 504 Dio, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish? Mashed potatoes. I'm making a cheesy potato dish tomorrow. I'm going to be bringing wine to Thanksgiving dinner, so I don't have to cook as much. Sorry, Alex. Or be happy about that. Depending, it'll be good wine. Matt Harrison, do you think JV gets extended, or do we move him, maybe move up in the draft and get a younger center? I think they'd like to eventually. I don't know if they'll extend him or anything. I think they'll just go into the offseason and try and re-sign him if he's not moved. I think it can just be as simple as that. Denzel Horton says Steaksgiving. There you go, my man. That is also the way to do it. 504 Boy says, comment. What up, Jake? What up to you? Happy Thanksgiving. Trey, Matt, Hawk, BI, Zion, that lineup. Yeah, but you don't have a 5. That's going to hurt you there. There's no defense in that lineup whatsoever either, but it will be fun. I want to put more shooters around Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. So yes, try it. I just don't know if it'll actually work. Okay. We're going to end here. We've gone almost an hour. It's past my bedtime. Probably past your bedtime too. Go be with your families. Get set for Thanksgiving tomorrow. Do your cooking. I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you're working, good luck. We appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for being here. Over 200 people an hour in. This is just so much fun. We'll do more of these shows. I like the way we structured this one. Kind of first half was a regular show, and then bonus 30 minutes here with y'all, just hanging out, talking at the end. It's going to be a lot of fun. Send me your questions for Friday's show on Twitter or in the comments down below or on the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group. I will put that one more time here in the chat for y'all. If you want to text me is the way to do it. Pelicans giving win on a Friday. That would be great. See y'all at the watch party, Mid-City Yacht Club, Saturday with the Pels 12. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NolaJake on Twitter. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll be back with y'all on tomorrow, Friday. Bye, everybody.